Okay, let's dive in. Our mission here at the Deep Dive is, well, to take a stack of material like the sources you've shared with us today and really get into it.
Yeah, unpack it.
Exactly.
Right.
We're pulling out the most important nuggets, the surprising facts, the key insights that give you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed on this specific subject.
Think of us as your guides, pointing out what really matters.
Today, we're plunging into specific excerpts from Ian Fleming's novel, Dr. No. We're stepping into a world that seems kind of calm on the surface, but hides incredible danger. Our starting point. Kingston, Jamaica, somewhere mid-20th century.
And the source material throws us immediately into a very particular world, almost rigidly ordered. We meet Strangways, a British Secret Service agent stationed there.
Right.
The text really paints a picture of an almost iron routine governing his day.
Absolutely. Picture this. He's playing bridge at the Queen's Club, described as a vital part of their four, apparently when he hits this maddening interruption every single evening.
Every evening.
Precisely at 6:15 p.m. he has to leave. Even mid-hand. He's got to go to his office and, well, make a call.
And that call is it's the absolute core of his job, his operational existence there. It's a mandatory daily radio contact, 6:3 p.m. local time.
Sharp.
With Secret Service HQ, called WWW in Regent's Park, London, he uses the call sign WXN on 14 megacycles. Now that frequency detail, maybe it's just Fleming adding realism, or perhaps it suggests, a specific type of channel they used back then. Secure, maybe?
Could be.
The source clearly lays out the consequences if he misses it. There's a blue call at 7 p.m., then red at 7:30 p.m., and if there's still nothing, it escalates to emergency action by Section 3 back in London.
High stakes.
Very. And the text even notes Strangway's pride. He'd never even triggered a blue call.
He wasn't doing this alone, though. He had help keeping this meticulous schedule, Miss Trueblood, his number 2.
Right, posing as his secretary.
But actually, a former chief officer, WRNS. Now, that WRNS detail, that's interesting, isn't it?
It is. It tells you she's not just, standard office staff. She has a disciplined background, probably military style. Makes her role believable.
Definitely. And she handled the radio setup. Cleverly hidden, too, inside a dummy filing cabinet at his bungalow office, up in the Blue Mountains.
Sounds idyllic, almost. Remote. Beautiful.
Right. But the source gives us a little glimpse into what Strangways was actually working on.
Yeah, just a bit. It's called A Curious and Complicated Affair, linked somehow to the local Chinese community.
He felt things were going well, apparently, seeing odd angles emerge.
He even had this fleeting thought, didn't he? That if these details gelled, he might be onto something very odd indeed.
But then he sort of dismisses it, expects a drab solution.
Classic intelligence work expectation, maybe.
What's fascinating here is how Fleming sets up this whole picture. Predictable routine, an agent maybe on the verge of something, but expecting the mundane.
Yeah.
And then bam.
The exact opposite of it happens.
The text just shifts gears completely. Strangways leaves the club, 6:15 p.m. on the dot, feeling relaxed after bridge. And then he sees them.
3 figures approaching him. Blind beggars.
And the source is incredibly specific here. They are Chigros, Chinese Negroes.
It explicitly notes this is an odd and uncommon mixture of bloods for that specific area, the wealthier part of town. You might see them elsewhere in Kingston, but not there.
Paints a picture, doesn't it? Bulky but sort of bowed, dressed in rags, tapping white sticks.
The description feels designed to make them seem slightly out of place, unsettling.
It's a really striking image Fleming creates. And as Strangways passes them, he has this moment of reflection, shame for his own health and gratitude for it, gives them a coin, a florin.
And he vaguely notices their tapping stops.
That silence.
That's the chilling cue, isn't it? The source describes the attack with just brutal efficiency. As Strangways passes the last man, all 3 swiveled.
Coordinated.
Perfectly. The back 2 fan out. From their rags, they pull out 3 revolvers, ungainly with their sausage-shaped silencers. They fire with disciplined precision, not randomly. Specific points down his spine, between the shoulders, small of the back, pelvis.
And the sound, described as 3 heavy coughs.
Horrifying simile. Just like that, Strangways is killed. Instantly.
The text is so precise with the timing, 6:17 p.m.
And the follow-through is just terrifyingly efficient. A dingy motor hearse, black plumes, and all appears immediately.
Like it was waiting.
Exactly. The killers load his body into a plain coffin inside, climb in themselves, quickly change into black coats and top hats, discard the sticks.
The whole operation, attacked to driving off at a sedate speed.
Takes exactly 3 minutes. By 6:20 p.m., they're gone.
What this shows you, the listener, straight away, is the extreme professionalism, the ruthlessness of this enemy. This wasn't random. It was planned, clinical.
It completely shatters that iron routine we just talked about, and it highlights just how exposed even a highly disciplined agent can be.
And the consequences of that missed 6:30 p.m. call. They ripple out instantly.
Yeah. The source cuts straight to Strangways' bungalow office in the Blue Mountains. Mary Trueblood is waiting. By 6:28 p.m., she knows he's late.
You really feel her anxiety building in the text. 6:30 p.m. hits. London WWW starts calling WXN strongly.
And she makes this split-second, almost desperate decision. Keep the radio circuit open. She responds, "Hear you loud and clear."
But just as she's speaking.
Bang! An explosion behind her. The door lock is shot off.
And the man who enters, the source describes him, big Negro with yellowish skin and slanting eyes, holding a gun with another silencer, that thick black cylinder.
This is not Strangways.
No. The scene that follows is just as brutal, underscores the enemy's goal. Eliminate loose ends, destroy evidence.
The man smiles horrific detail, that and shoots Mary Trueblood 3 times in the chest.
The text notes that for perhaps a second, the tiny chirrup of London sounded out into the room. Just that brief connection before it guts out.
Triggering the alert back at radio security in London.
And the killer. He immediately starts a systematic cleanup.
Grabs fire lighters, a big sugar sack, roughly sacks Mary's body, takes documents, items from the safe, crucially, the cipher books, piles everything up.
And starts fires to destroy everything.
He even leaves the front door open, apparently, to create a draft for the fire, sees the hearse waiting outside, and carries Mary's sacked body out, puts it in the coffin right on top of Strangways.
Chillingly efficient disposal. Both bodies gone, scene compromised.
All this chaos, of course, gets back to London HQ pretty fast. The source shifts perspective to Regent's Park. We meet M, the head of the Secret Service.
He's immediately calling for incoming signals, getting Sir James Maloney, a neurologist, on the line, summoning the chief of staff, pulling the Strangways file. He's moving quickly.
And has this curious conversation with Sir James Maloney. It's about a specific agent's state after an injury. It's pretty clear they mean Bond, though they don't say his name yet.
Right. Sir James confirms the agent is physically fit, but has a lot of tension. Recommends an easier assignment. A bit of a breather, he calls it.
Yeah. And adding to M's rather, well, clinical perspective, he brings up this list from an American doctor, Peter Steincrone.
Oh, yeah, the body parts list.
Exactly. Body parts a person can supposedly survive without. Gallbladder, spleen, tonsils, appendix, 1 kidney, 1 lung, some blood, bits of liver, stomach, intestines, even half the brain. M found it an interesting list.
It feels a bit morbid, maybe, but it subtly highlights M's viewpoint, doesn't it? His agents are resources, expected to function, survive, even under extreme conditions.
It certainly underscores the high-stakes world they're operating in. So ultimately, M decides Bond's rest cure will be this trip to Jamaica.
Some rest cure.
Quite. He's to go as an inquiry agent, officially looking into Strangways' disappearance, the cover story.
Did Strangways and the girl Mary Trueblood have simply gone off together? What a stark contrast, the brutal reality we just read about versus this polite fiction M cooks up.
It really highlights the level of deception that's just inherent in their world. So Bond arrives in Jamaica.
And the source immediately throws you into the atmosphere. That tropical environment, the sticky fingers of heat, the velvet heat.
His passport gives him a standard cover. Import and export merchant for universal export. Standard stuff.
And right off the plane, he meets a really crucial contact, Quarrel.
Quarrel. A trusted Cayman Islander Bond's worked with before. Gives him the traditional West Indian salute forearm across the eyes.
The text emphasizes Quarrel is an invaluable handyman. And importantly, gives Bond a link to the lower strata of colored life. Access he wouldn't otherwise have.
But the warning signs pop up almost immediately. The car they've provided for Bond.
It's Strangway's own car, a black Sunbeam Alpine.
Quarrel explains the ADC just said it was the only spare they had. Bond instantly gets it, using this car practically paints a target on him.
It screams, I'm connected to Strangways.
Exactly. He regrets the specific details he put in his signal, requesting the car and Quarrel via the Colonial Office and the governor. Too specific, maybe. Made him too easy to identify.
And his suspicion is right on the money. as they drive towards Kingston.
They quickly realize they're being followed. An American taxi.
Quarrel points out, an empty taxi wouldn't normally drive back from the airport like that. It's an expensive run.
The enemy is already aware, already watching.
They manage to shake the tail in Kingston traffic, thankfully, and arrive at the Blue Hills Hotel. Seems comfortable.
Bond allows himself just a brief moment of respite. Cold shower, gin and tonic with lime. Appreciates being back on a good, tough case, away from hospitals, and the aftermath of his last assignment.
But the source adds another little encounter, confirming the surveillance.
Right, the Chung girl. Bond questions her about who wanted his picture taken.
And Quarrel uses a bit of physical persuasion, twists her arm.
Her response, a defiant hiss in Chinese, shows resistance, even under duress.
So this confirms Bond's immediate analysis. Strangways and Mary Trueblood weren't just killed randomly. They were killed to shut down their investigation, destroy records.
And now, the enemy knows Bond is here. They're watching him, ready to eliminate him, probably stage it as a car smash or a street fight.
The crime suspect starts to emerge now from the source material and Quarrel's local knowledge. Dr. No, specifically Dr. Julius No.
Described as German-Chinese, owns this place called Crab Key.
His main business, guano, bird droppings, making money off it.
He was involved in this affair of the roseate spoonbills, which apparently caused some trouble with the Audubon Society.
What's interesting here is the contrast, right? M, back in London, dismissed the bird issue. Old women getting worked up, he called it.
But Bond now sees 4 deaths directly linked to it, and maybe even more significantly, Quarrel.
Yeah, Quarrel. A man Bond trusts who isn't easily scared. He is genuinely afraid of Dr. No and his island.
That fear, more than any official report, tells Bond this guy is a serious threat.
Quarrel's reaction is a major red flag. So Bond decides his next step is to talk to the officials, meet the governor and the colonial secretary, a guy named Playdell Smith.
Try and gather more intel on guano, Crab Key, Dr. No himself.
Playdell Smith provides, limited information. He confirms Mary Trueblood was a capable secretary, describes her as Chinese Negro, but knows very little about Dr. No or Crab Key.
Dismissively calls it a godforsaken bloody place with a mountain of bird dung.
He also makes this comment, that the Chigros aren't organized yet, but someone will get hold of them. A sort of casual observation that points toward potential exploitation.
So these official sources give some political, maybe economic context, but clearly don't grasp the real nature of the threat. Pushes Bond towards investigating Crab Key himself.
And the enemy. They keep letting him know he's being watched. The source describes this basket of fruit arriving at Bond's hotel room.
Seems innocent enough, presented as a compliment from the governor.
But Bond's spy instincts are screaming. He's immediately suspicious, takes precautions, inspects the fruit visually, listens to it, eventually just dumps it all out.
He also checks his suitcase, confirms it was searched, smeared talcum powder around the locks, tiny scratches where it was prized open.
He uses a jeweler's glass on a nectarine, finds this minute pinprick in the stalk hole.
Chilling realization hits him. The fruit is poisoned.
His conclusion is swift, direct. This is long-range fire from Crab Key. Dr. No behind it.
Every single piece of fruit in that basket has these tiny holes.
His response is immediate, precise. Carefully packs the fruit back up, calls Playdell Smith.
Asks him to send it anonymously to a public analyst, gives a specific warning. Handle it carefully. There's more in them than meets the eye.
He also gives his planned secret location, Bow Desert, at Morgan's Harbor, stressing it needs to be kept quiet.
Days later, the confirmation comes back via telegram from Playdell Smith. Stark message. Each object contained enough cyanide to kill a horse.
Wow. Meanwhile, Bond sees a newspaper report. Details a fatal accident involving Strangway's car, the Sunbeam Alpine he was lent.
Right, on the Kingston-Montego route. Killed the 2 occupants. And the report specifically mentions a Mr. Bond, the English visitor who was lent the car.
Another attempt, staged to look like an accident. And designed to protect Quarrel, who'd driven the car part way, Bond burns the newspaper.
This layered attempt, the poison, the staged crash, it just reinforces Dr. No's reach, his ruthlessness.
So the threat is crystal clear now.
Yeah.
M's rest cure is anything but. Bond starts intensive training with Quarrel, tells him, get me absolutely fit. He knows it's coming.
He sets their course for Crab Key. Initially, he frames it as just, a trip to sniff around, check out the bird sanctuary, the warden's camp, maybe come back later with soldiers if needed.
But Quarrel's reaction tells the real story. He whistles in disbelief, calls Bond plumb crazy to trespass on that island.
His fear of Dr. No is palpable. He even asks Bond to think about taking out life insurance on him before they sail.
That more than anything underscores the reputation. The terror surrounding Dr. No hits harder than any official report could.
That sense of dread really grounds the threat. So the source then describes their departure, Crab Key, by canoe at night.
Quiet, unnoticed setting off.
The sea journey is dark, empty, leads Bond to reflect on the strange, hidden life of the deep-sea sharks, 50-foot squids. A sense of unseen dangers mirroring the unseen dangers waiting on the island.
They finally arrive at Crab Key. Notice the unusual black volcanic sand beach. They work quickly to hide the canoe, using bamboo rollers to pull it inland, into the mangroves, covering it with seaweed, driftwood.
And then, completely unexpected, Bond sees a naked woman emerging from the sea.
The source describes her appearance in detail.
Mm.
Light uniform cafe au lait, skin, strong build, striking ash blonde hair, wearing a diving mask. Bond notes she's not a colored girl.
This is our introduction to Honeychal Ryder.
She lives this solitary, really unconventional life, collecting valuable shells to make money.
The source fills in some key details of her past, living in ruins with her nanny, taking in injured animals during the cane cutting season, being seen as obeya by the cane cutters because of her connection to animals, her ability to communicate with them.
Obeya, that's a term you hear in the Caribbean, right? Refers to spiritual practices, sometimes seen as witchcraft, with roots in West Africa. It just highlights her isolation, her unique bond with the natural world.
Her story also includes a really dark, traumatic event, the Mander incident.
Right. Mander, this drunk overseer, tried to assault her. She describes it with his stark simplicity as the things people in love do.
And she killed him. According to local Obeahman, his death took a week. A detail that adds this layer of folklore or maybe just reflects Honeychild's own unique, almost primal way of dealing with threats.
Bond's reaction is interesting. A mix of awe, God Almighty, but also a touch of caution. It's not a thing to make a habit of.
Honeychild's whole survival, her future plans, they revolve entirely around shell collecting. She taught herself from an encyclopedia, subscribes to Nautilus, sells rare shells, even the ugly ones, preserved with formalin, animals still inside, to a dealer in Miami.
Her big goal, save 500 pounds, to get her broken nose fixed in America.
She found some really valuable purple shells on Crab Key before Christmas, which really boosted her hopes. She imagines returning rich by 30, buying Bow Desert, having a family.
Even jokes about being a call girl to get the money faster?
And Bond, maybe surprisingly, just immediately promises to help her get her nose fixed.
It's a small moment, but significant. A connection between them.
And Honeychal, just like Quarrel, expresses this deep fear of Dr. No and his island, calls it a place of hate and death. That fear from the locals. It's a recurring warning sign for Bond.
But their presence on the island doesn't stay secret for long, does it?
Not at all. The source describes the sound of a boat approaching. Search party.
Quarrel, ever the resourceful one, acts fast. Clears their tracks with mangrove branches, hides Honeychild's canoe deeper in the rocks.
The search boat, a cabin cruiser, Quarrel identifies it with dread. Bay's a-comin', the crew. Pale-skinned Chinese Negroes in uniform, khaki, straw caps, armed.
With a loud hailer and a machine gun. Bond thinks it looks like a Spandau.
The crew uses binoculars, searching the beach, the rocks. Spot something suspicious.
The boat moves closer, and the machine gun fires, deliberately targeting Honeychild's canoe.
Saws it almost in half. It's such a cruel, possessive act, designed to eliminate any escape route. Honeychal is devastated.
Quarrel, despite his own fear, reassures her, promises another boat, invites her to come with them.
But this incident really ramps up Quarrel's fear. He calls the searchers mighty tough men, says they means business, far more dangerous than any local thugs. He's especially worried about their dogs.
Police hounds, pinchers, a whole pack of 20 or more. He stresses they need a plan, urgently.
Despite the escalating danger, Bond makes the call. They're not leaving yet. He takes Honeychal with them, continues towards the warden's camp.
He notes internally, doesn't he, that a girl can be an extra heart, but also a liability. 2 targets against your 1.
Practical, if cold. They sink Honeychal's damaged canoe further to hide it better.
As they move through the mangroves, they hear it. A lorry, dogs barking, coming from the huts, heading their way.
Quarrel predicts they'll come down the river channel.
And Honeychal offers a survival tactic, something she's used before when they looked for her, hiding underwater, breathing through bamboo tubes.
They endure this absolutely harrowing experience, submerged, breathing through reeds as the hunters, men and dogs pass terrifyingly close in the river, searching.
The tension is almost unbearable, especially when a second searcher comes right into their channel.
They finally emerge. Tired, sunburnt, stinging from the salt water and the near miss. Honeycheel warns Bond about drinking the brackish water. Just wince his mouth. Avoid fever.
They push on towards the warden's camp. It's a difficult trek. Mud, stench, heat. Bond can't help but think wryly of M calling this a holiday in the sunshine.
They pass an odd detail noted in the source, a burned clump of bushes. Strange.
Finally, they reach the warden's campsite, a spit of sand on a lake, hut ruins, a welcome place to rest, wash off the grime, dry their gear.
Quarrel unpacks everything, including Bond's damp gun. Bond meticulously dismantles it, dries it, reassembles it, finds the sound of the action healthy, a small comfort.
As night falls, the intimacy between Bond and Honeycheel deepens a bit. She tells him more of her story details about Mander, her shell business, reiterates her desire to fix her nose, and Bond's promise to help.
Quarrel sets the first watch. They discuss the crucial need to get away before daylight.
But their escape plans get blown up. Early the next morning, a terrifying sound wakes them.
Honeycheel wakes Bond. They hear this loud engine noise, a fearful ting, she calls it.
Bond identifies it, a machine he calls a dragon, some kind of diesel-powered tractor affair, deliberately disguised to look monstrous, terrifying.
Built to cross the impossible terrain, mangroves, swamp, they realize instantly they can't outrun it. They have to fight it.
A brief, desperate fight breaks out. Quarrel fires his Remington carbine at the dragon's dome. Ineffective, just a dull clang.
Bond fires a Smith & Wesson at the headlights, takes them out, success there. But shooting at the huge, solid rubber tires, useless.
And for the first time, Bond feels the first breath of fear. This machine, the deliberately frightening creation. It's a new level of enemy tech.
The dragon reaches them. A voice from the dome orders them to stop, drop their weapon, adds a chilling threat. If they don't, the crabs will be getting a cooked breakfast.
Recognizing it's hopeless, Bond drops his gun, notes to himself his smaller Beretta would have been just as useless against this thing.
A man emerges from the dome. It's the Chinese Negro boss they saw on the search party earlier. Big guy, clad only in trousers. Holding a gun, Bond thinks maybe a flamethrower type in handcuffs, one of Dr. No's tough and reliable overseers.
Bond and Honeycheel are handcuffed, forced into the dragon. As they're driven through the lake up the mountain towards the huts, the Chinese Negro co-driver gives Bond this look of slow hate.
Honeycheel, bewildered, asks why they hate them so much. Bond's answer is really revealing about the island's power dynamics. It's because he made them afraid and they have to keep them that way.
The hatred is born from the challenge to their authority, the instilled fear.
Bond thinks about Quarrel then. The brave giant who smelled his own death but followed him anyway. That weight of responsibility settles on him. Will he be the cause of Honeychild's death too? A rare moment of vulnerability for Bond.
They're brought into a Quonset hut garage, workshop. The dragon is parked over an examination pit. They're told they'll be sent through after a message is passed.
And then comes the journey inside the mountain. A silent automatic lift, descending deep into the earth.
The contrast with the jungle outside must be jarring.
Totally. They emerge into this vast, luxurious room, office, library, described like a high-end corporate space, a president's floor, expensive furnishings, Art Degas sketches mentioned, and this huge glass wall.
And they're greeted by nurses.
Two large women dressed as nurses, Sister Lily and Sister Rose. They greet them with this exaggerated concern, immediately take off the handcuffs, expressing distaste for how the outside staff handled them.
It's such a strange juxtaposition. Carrying nurses, but they're captives.
They go through an intake interview. Sister Rose fills out a form. Bond gives fake details, carefully constructed.
John Bryce, Royal Zoological Society, ornithologist, Audubon rep, tying back to the spoonbills.
Right. Honeychild is his wife. Next of kin is M, under his universal export cover identity as an uncle. Sister Rose seems unexpectedly delighted by Honeychild's name.
Weird. Then they're taken to a luxurious double room, the Cream Suite.
Described as an exquisite prison, full of comforts but undeniably a cell. Steel plates, bars, no inside door handle.
Honeychild is overwhelmed by it all, finds the luxury more strange, more terrifying than their struggles outside. Asks Bond if it's a trap.
Bond confirms it is. Tells her they have to eat the cheese, make the best of this comfortable but dangerous situation.
They get this incredible breakfast delivered to the room. Stark contrast to the hunger and hardship before.
After a bath, Honeychild looks refreshed, ravishing even, and Bond finds he loves her broken nose. An odd, intimate moment amidst the weirdness.
The source builds the tension before the man himself appears. 10:00 p.m. Dr. No enters their room. A very tall, thin figure.
And he conducts this deeply disturbing examination while they're sleeping, uses a chest-mounted flashlight.
This is where Fleming reveals his hands aren't hands. They're articulated steel pincers on metal stalks, hidden by black silk sleeves.
He uses them to probe Honeychild's naked body, then examines bond face, pulse, heart, muscles, even his life and fate lines on his palm. A chilling clinical assessment.
They're taken to the room with the glass wall for dinner. The wall turns out to be a huge aquarium. Illuminated by searchlights, Bond sees a large shark swimming past.
Dining in front of a predator tank. Perfect visual metaphor for Dr. No's power and control, isn't it?
Totally. And we get Dr. No's full description now. Very tall, thin, yellow-brown face, skull like an egg of a dinosaur, black hair, thick glasses, thick purple lips, scar tissue, no ears, just holes with wax filters. And the steel pincers are clearly visible now. Fleming likens him to a praying mantis.
Makes him seem less human, more alien. Reflects his twisted psychology. He comments flatly on Honeychild's nose. It is a misfortune. Shares his weirdly passionate enthusiasm for watching fish.
Bond, even in this situation, pushes back, confronts Dr. No, calls his power quest an illusion, compares him to someone running their own private asylum, basically calls him insane but self-contained.
Dr. No coolly counters. Argues power, like beauty, even life itself, is relative. Defines true sovereignty as a secure base plus freedom of action.
And he makes this provocative claim. His power over his people is unique because he's accountable to no one. Asks, chillingly, now that Stalin is dead, can you name any man except myself?
It's a bold statement. Absolute unchecked authority derived from isolation, self-sufficiency.
He spills some of his history, too. Trained as a doctor in Milwaukee, searched for a private island HQ, bought GrabKey 14 years ago, so 1942, built his guano business birds as free factories, controlled labor through isolation, harsh methods, using those tough Chinese Negro overseers.
Mentions a sanatorium inside the mountain, bringing in specialists who basically live there until their work's done.
He identifies the threat to his isolation, the cloud below the horizon, as the roseate spoonbills. The Audubon Society's plan for a hotel, making GrabKey famous, unacceptable.
Mentions the wardens were supplied from Cuba, sent reports by launch. He deliberately avoided meeting Audubon reps.
And during this elaborate dinner, Bond, ever the pragmatist, is planning.
Always. He subtly tries to get a weapon, spills champagne as a distraction, hides a steel meat knife in his kimono sleeve, feels it comfortingly against his skin, keeps his lighter too, small acts of preparation, even facing overwhelming power.
Dr. No just casually discusses killing Strangways and married True Blood. Says with this disturbing detachment, 2 more deaths on the chart sheet, but Mr. Bond, a man can only be hanged once.
Emphasizes his willingness to kill, his belief he's beyond normal justice.
Then the conversation turns really dark. Dr. No reveals his twisted scientific interest, pain, human endurance, admits conducting experiments on punished staff, trespassers.
Then he details the gruesome fate plan for Honeychild. Torture.
Oh.
Mentions a previous subject, a negress, died of terror after 3 hours. Expresses a desire for a white girl for comparison. Just horrific. Reveals the depths of his cruelty, his scientific depravity.
And for Bond, a unique, equally horrifying fate. An obstacle race, an assault course against death, engineered inside the mountain.
Its purpose. Measure courage, endurance, the conquest of fear, design with unknown dangers, unexpected elements. Bond is the first subject of his particular physical type. If he fails, his body will be recovered, studied.
Dr. No frames this nightmare as something of an honor.
Bond's internal reaction is grim determination. Steels himself against fear, focuses on survival, trusts his hidden knife and lighter, feels that bitter irony M called this a holiday.
Dr. No's parting words are chilling. Run a good race for me, Mr. Bond. My thoughts will be with you. Twisted encouragement.
It's a terrifying glimpse into a mind that sees humans purely as subjects. For study, for control. Bond's then taken to a cell marked Q.
Sparse. His clean clothes, a chair. But definitely a prison. No inside handle, barred porthole.
Bond immediately assesses it. Spots his potential escape. A ventilation grill near the ceiling. Wide enough to fit through.
But a guard offers to explain the course.
Yeah, but Bond refuses. Grim pragmatism. I'd rather stay alive. He even tries to get the guard to escape with him.
But the guard just sneers, Refuses. Shows the absolute control Dr. No has. Maybe through fear, maybe ideology.
So Bond begins this grueling, terrifying journey through the internal shaft system, crawling through narrow passages, facing deliberate obstacles designed just to test and harm.
Spiders, intense heat, sudden extreme cold, hidden razor blades, electric shocks.
There's a moment he reaches a lateral shaft, sees a Chinese Negro observer through a thick glass porthole above. The observer gives him this dismissive thumbs down.
That's potent, isn't it? Shows they aren't just following orders, they genuinely hate him, want him to die miserably.
He hits that horrifying spider obstacle, a wire mesh barrier, hundreds of spiders behind it. He has to force himself through, gets covered in them. Ugh.
Later, after more of the course, he sees another observer. Again, the thumbs down. That lack of any acknowledgement, even grudging respect, takes an extra ounce of heart out of him.
But it also fuels his determination. Thoughts of Honeychild keep him going.
The shaft finally starts slipping downwards. Glimmer of gray light, fresh air, suggests the end of the engineered part. You feel a bit of hope.
But the final, ultimate obstacle is waiting. The shaft opens into a pool of water, and below, Bond sees this monstrous creature.
The giant squid. The kraken. The source describes it vividly. Luminescent gray, thick tentacles, football-sized eyes, a beak, jet propulsion. Bond thinks, God, that thing was as big as a railway engine.
And it attacks, tentacles rising towards him.
Desperate, instinctual move from Bond. Anchors himself to the wire mesh barrier at the shaft opening, clutches that small knife he stole from dinner.
The source implies a brutal battle follows. Bond using the knife, maybe aided by the lingering effects of the electric shock. A primal fight against this seemingly impossible foe. Somehow, Bond emerges from the water, scrubbed, raw, stinging, climbs over a headland, hears and sees the next location. The Guano loading bay.
Jetty, crane, a tanker, the Blanche of Antwerp, and the overhead conveyor belt carrying the guano.
And he spots him, Dr. No, and the Chinese Negro boss, the dragon driver, on the jetty directing the loading.
This is Bond's chance. The crane cabin is momentarily empty. He makes a break for it, runs, takes control.
Quickly puts the engine in neutral, causes the wire hawser to tear, the crane arm bends. Initially, in his haste, he misdirects the guano flow, pours it between the jetty and the ship.
But then he sees Dr. No moving towards a telephone to call for help.
Bond swings the crane arm, redirects the huge, stinking mound of guano straight at Dr. No. The source describes the yellow mound marching across the jetty.
Bond cries out, grim triumph, R, gotcha.
Dr. No, trapped, helpless, buried alive by the guano. A messy, ignominious end for the clinical, calculating villain, killed by the very source of his wealth and power.
Bond runs through the guano tunnel under the conveyor. Stinking passage, narrow planking. And astonishingly, Honeychild is there.
She followed him, stumbles, panting.
They reach the garage Quonset hut. The dragon is parked there. They hear guards returning, talking about hearing shooting, grabbing rifles, finding trouble for the dock, aiming for legs, bring back prisoners.
Bond and Honeychild quickly hide inside the marsh buggy, the dragon itself. Here the guards file past, heading into the tunnel, still talking about capturing prisoners for the dock.
After they leave, Bond locks the tunnel door, grabs weapons, a Smith & Wesson, a Remington carbine from an arms rack, gives the rifle to Honeychild, prepares the buggy.
Outside, sounds of barracks life, frying food, music. Then suddenly, fighting, gunfire erupts. The island security is collapsing with Dr. No gone.
Bond drives the buggy out, sees the Doberman pinchers running towards the barracks, empties his gun into the dogs, neutralizing that threat.
As they drive across the lake in the buggy, Bond tells Honeychild they should be safe now. Panic over Dr. No's death. Staff will likely flee. Plan is to hide till dark, use the canoe, presumably the spare Quarrel mentioned.
And then Honeychild makes this truly surprising confession.
Yeah, she reveals she fainted at dinner, not because she feared her own torture. She says she could have handled that.
But because she knew Dr. No planned something far, far worse for Bond.
She recounts her own terrifying experience. Tied out on the rock, clothes taken off, notes the black men joked but didn't touch her, crucially mentions the crabs running over her.
Which she recounts with disturbing calm, became quite fond of them, called them company, shows incredible resilience, adaptation.
She escaped by pulling out a peg she could reach. Found clothes, guessed the conveyor route, decided to follow Bond believing he was dead specifically to kill Dr. No herself with a screwdriver.
Wow. She even admits hitting Bond in the stomach when they met in the tunnel. Based on her nanny's advice. A protective, instinctual action.
Her story just adds another layer. Survivalist, yes, but fiercely loyal, capable of lethal intent when those she cares about are threatened.
Finally, the source brings us back to Jamaica. Bond is debriefing. Governor, Colonial Secretary Playdell Smith at King's house.
Bond, knowing the brutal truth, Strangways and Mary Trueblood dead at the bottom of the Mona Reservoir, feels little sympathy for the bureaucratic colonial office guy.
The governor's worried about press coverage, but the brigadier cuts through the red tape. Blunt efficiency.
Suggests immediate action. Send HMS Narvik to Crab Key without waiting for London's okay. Implicitly calls the governor and Playdell Smith feather-hatted fuddy-duddies for being too cautious. Suggests deferring their formal reception schedule. Pushes for positive headlines. Governor takes swift action.
Playdell Smith acknowledges Bond's extraordinary survival, recommends accepting his proposals for the aftermath.
Bond sends a signal to M via the colonial office. Requests sick leave. Notes his Smith & Wesson was ineffective against a flamethrower, nodding to the dragon's weapon.
He later regrets that cheap jibe, wasted cipher groups, but clearly wanted M to know this wasn't exactly a holiday in the sun.
Despite hospital recommendations, bruised hands, burns from the assault course, Bond insists on returning to Bow Desert first, to check on Honeychow. Promises he'll go to the hospital tomorrow.
He also makes arrangements for her. Asks Playdell Smith to contact the Jamaica Institute about a suitable job, highlighting her natural history knowledge. States his intention to take her to New York himself to get her nose fixed, taking responsibility.
The source concludes with Bond's painful drive back, recalling the chaotic morning after escape emergency ward, treatments, debriefings, and coding the signal. Back at Bow Desert, finds a note from Honeychild on his pillow.
Big childish writing. You're staying with me tonight. I can't leave my animals, and I can't leave you, and you owe me slave time. I will come at 7. Your H.
She arrives at dusk, described as looking incredibly fresh and beautiful, despite everything. Leads him through the sugarcane to her hidden home.
An underground cellar space, transformed into this surprising lovely room, a very large, tidy cigar box. Polished wood, bamboo paneling, candlelight from a silver chandelier, furniture, windows looking out at the sky, stars. She's put away her animal cages for him, created a space just for them.
They have a simple, intimate dinner, cold lobsters, fruit. Honeychild asks Bond about his love life, cutting through his usual reserve. Declares she wants him to talk love, not eat. He'll eat in Kingston tomorrow.
The final scene. It's intimate, raw. Bond responds by kneeling, taking her hand, biting her Mount of Venus, a strikingly physical, instinctual gesture.
She responds, puts her hand in his hair, reveals she bought a double sleeping bag. Costs a lot of money, she says, signaling her intentions. Instructs him, take off clothes, join her. Reminds him, you promised, you owe me slave time.
Bond hesitates briefly, but may be surprised by her directness, the speed of it all.
Before her final, definitive command from the source, do as you're told, it ends with Honeychild taking charge, turning the tables on Bond's usual control, though in this moment of intimacy.
And that brings us to the end of these specific excerpts from Dr. Knows. Wow. We've taken quite a deep dive, haven't we? From a seemingly minor disappearance
Into a world of high-tech villainy, extreme physical and psychological tests.
and emerged blinking into the light with 2 survivors whose paths just converged in the most unlikely violent way.
We saw how Fleming uses those seemingly small details, the iron routine, the specific breed of dogs, the vehicle descriptions, the poison method to build this world of calculated danger.
We met a villain whose power came not just from tech, but from absolute isolation and this really twisted scientific curiosity.
And we encountered a character like Honeychild. Her resilience, her connection to the natural world, such a stark contrast to Bond's, well, weaponized existence.
It was certainly no rest cure for Bond, as M put it, not even close. But looking back at these sections, what does surviving this incredible ordeal really reveal about both Bond and Honeychow? What lasting impact does this brush with such a unique form of evil and this strange hidden life have on them?
And as we leave them there, in that hidden cellar, with Honeychild issuing her final command, it really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What happens next? For these 2 incredibly disparate individuals whose lives just collided so violently, so intimately, on a secret island built on bird dung and guarded by a man with steel pincers.
Yeah, plenty to mull over there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Dr. No.